Adjustments on the offensive line for many reasons, but you're playing with that still. Do you know exactly if you started today, who you would start on the offensive line?
If we played today, we'd have Mo Porter, left tackle. This is before practice. You never know after practice it could change, but Sam Tecklenburg's been playing left guard. Ryan Miller, the freshman's been playing center. And then Blake Blackmore and Pat Lawrence are playing right guard and right tackle. So I would say the left tackle, the right guard, and the right tackle are solidified, barring injury. And that we're messing around with a combination of guys at center and left guard. And it's, it's a fluid thing.
What about Simmons and Wilson? What's going on with that?
Simmons was playing really well and then got hurt last week. And so he'll be back, I think, probably Friday. So he's getting in the mix. And Ish has been hot and cold during camp. He's doing his best. He's playing the best that he's played right now. So he's definitely in the mix. So it's really just sort of like who's the best out of those guys. And Ish broke a bone in his hand in the spring, and so it's still, I think sometimes maybe bothers him a little bit. So those other two guys I'd say if we played today have played a little bit better. But again, we took a lot of reps today, and we're going to take a lot of reps tomorrow. So that's very fluid in terms of who would go out there and play.
What do you like about Ryan Miller?
Well, he is really athletic, and so the way we kind of coach that position, we need a guy that can get up to the second level. He's extremely smart. He's tough. He's well coached. I mean, the coaches at South Lake Carroll did an unbelievable job with him. So, he's not a real huge guy. He's 6'1" maybe, but he makes up for his lack of height with strength, power, athleticism, toughness, and he's really smart. So when he's out there, the worst thing that he does is snap the ball. I mean, everything else he does is at a really high level. So we just have to get him really consistent within the shotgun, and Tecklenburg can play center too. Daniel Russell, he's done a nice job. So we're building some quiet depth, which I like.
Obviously, you've been in camp for a little bit now. I mean, what do you feel the biggest strength of this team is right now?
I'd still say they're competitive. I think we have a pretty good football team. I was worried about the offensive line depth. I'm worried about are we going to be dynamic enough rushing the passer with a four-man rush? If we have to blitz the whole game, then we won't be a great team. But I think we're solid in a lot of areas, and it'll be interesting to see. The question for me is where are we going to be elite at? As I told the team before practice today, we have a team that does what we ask. They've become very disciplined and coachable. Now it becomes who doesn't just do what you ask, who kills it, who's the ringleader, who's the guy, the passionate leader everyone follows with the way he plays. And so that's the next step for us is who, not just with what they say, but with how they play, brings an intensity that's hard to match. And so that's the question I have. But I like the fact that I think our overall discipline and attention to detail has really improved.
As far as the depth of the offensive line, how often in your career, even as an assistant, did you play a freshman?
Not very often. I don't really want to play a freshman offensive lineman. I will say the two kids coming out of South, really all the kids that we have, the high school kids from Texas, they're all very well beyond what I'm used to. So, but I think they're good enough. I look at everything as a positive and a negative. You live through some growing pains, you play a freshman offensive lineman, but you have them for 4 years, and so you have a chance to mold them. I look at it like I think we're going to try to get to where we can have 7 guys who feel comfortable in the game, so that we can rotate. So if that's those 5 I mentioned, and then Simmons and Wilson, some combination thereof of those 7, I think we have a pretty good offensive line. And then there's some other young kids that are doing a good job. Let me go back. I'm sorry. I think Josh Malin's had a very good camp too at right tackle and left tackle. So I think we have 7 or 8 guys we feel comfortable putting in a game, and then some other kids that are on the cusp. But an area I was really concerned about I wouldn't say it's a strength, but it's shored itself up, and I think that's a credit to those kids.
Have you had a chance to see the ESPN report that came out last night?
I just saw the headline. I didn't really read the report, but I saw the headline.
I think it had mentioned something about Mackett said there was one player that tested positive or something like that. And following up to that, is there anybody whose status is up in the air going into week 1?
Anybody who's static in terms of
eligibility? I mean, did anybody get suspended? Because it looked like ESPN had mentioned that somebody had got suspended.
I didn't really see that, so I don't know. But I in terms of drug testing or anything like that, I'd probably be pretty afraid to say like who has passed or not passed in terms of like HIPAA and all that stuff. But if there's anybody suspended for the first game, you guys, I'd probably tell you who, why. So I think I have one player that's suspended right now for being late to curfew for the first half of the game, and I have another player that's suspended for competitive late for the first half of the game. But other than that, I don't have anybody as of right now. We'll see what happens in the coming week.
Coach, quarterback situation, what's What have you seen out of them, and where are you on your timeline for making a decision?
Yeah, I have no timeline. It's like I asked Julie to marry me when I was pretty sure she was the one. And she said yes when she was sure I was the one. So, I just think we have four really good quarterbacks, and so, what the defense is giving us on a day in day out basis is really challenging. So one day some guy looks better than the others, but they all look pretty good, and so we're just going to keep playing it out. I don't think I'll make that decision just out of fairness until probably the week of the first game. And that's just because every day I see this whole team making leaps and bounds and jumps. I mean, just what we're doing is just so different than what a lot of kids are used to that to make it prematurely, wouldn't be fair. So I don't know who the starting tailback is going to be for the first game. I kind of know a couple linemen, but even on defense, I couldn't tell you who's going to start really at any position, maybe other than Taylor. So I just think it's fair for everybody just to kind of wait till that game week and get through this last week and then next week in classes. I'm anxious to see how our kids handle it when classes start, and we're getting up at 5:45 in the morning on a Tuesday to practice. Who's going to be wide-eyed. So those are all things I'm going to factor in. So I'd say probably that first week before the game.
How much did Anu coming in help push Zach? Otherwise, you have Charlie, who we know is maybe the future. At the same time, how much did that help for right now?
Well, I just really like the camaraderie and competitiveness between Zach and Anu. I mean, I think I really believe iron sharpens iron. So when they see one guy do something, and they're always watching. So they're learning even in the reps that they're not in, and they're pushing each other in a really, really positive way. And the same thing for Charlie. I mean, Charlie's he's a gym rat in terms of watching football, and so that culture in that room has been really, really good. And so I think both those guys have really pushed the other to become a better player and to attack the situations. And really at this point, it's not about which quarterback throws the ball better. It's not about which quarterback knows the offense better, because they all have that. It's really kind of who manages the situations, who protects the football, who handles the blitz. I mean, it's all those high-level things now that we're kind of dealing with.
Are you getting into your safeties back a little bit?
Not yet. Yeah, I think we're being very cautious with Henry and Raj. I'd say probably another week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks. We've just been really bailed out. We have some wonderful non-scholarship safeties. Jared McVay probably, he's as talented as any scholarship player we have. Jared Coyne is unbelievably talented. So those guys have really, really done a tremendous job of giving us reps, while at the same time they're going to be really, really good players on special teams. So, but yeah, we're probably another 2 weeks away from those guys. It's going to be sort of like a free agent infusion when we get a couple guys back.
Last week, Davion, is he?
He's still not out there yet. So I don't really know that time frame. I would say maybe hopefully we have those guys all out there. Maybe the week of the first game, maybe the week of the second game.
When you talk about when this book is written about this team, how much of a chapter might be about the walk-ons and those who you added late because of the injuries, the depth, and how much they may impact this team?
So you scared me with saying the book's being written about this team. I'm like, don't write a book about it. No. Well, I mean, I think that's always been my philosophy anyway. I met with about 7, walk-on kids last night. Just reminded them, just remember now, I was a walk-on, and I've had 2 players in my 4 years as a head coach as walk-ons go on to the NFL. So I don't see anything about that. And I said I have a lot of respect for walk-ons because they're paying their way, which means they're tough, they're smart, they're selfless. And so, we have a couple that have been put on scholarship, in the past that are still here. And then those guys, I mean, we're going to look for contributions from everybody. And I look at guys like Jared Coyne, I look at guys like, Wyatt Schrefter and Tyler James, 2 former walk-ons. I look at guys like Trevor White had an unbelievable day today. So more Marcus Jones, as I mentioned, McVay. We have a kid, a true freshman running back, Drew Dixon. He's going to play. I mean, he's going to play at tailback. I mean, he's transferring from Air Force Prep. So I think we have 7, 8 walk-on kids that are going to play because they deserve to play. And it might be on special teams for me, but it's still at the end of the day they're going to play. And so that to me is that's how you build a good team, when you have those guys.
How many of them have eurned a scholarship? And is that something you've announced yet? Or?
No, I had nothing like that. Just the guys who have done it in the past. Yeah, because we're pretty filled up this year. We got to 8, which was kind of in recruiting. A lot of people said we were going to be at like 60, and we're at 85. So, if the chance comes to give one to somebody, though, we're always going to try to give it to. We have tremendously deserving non-scholarship players that deserve a scholarship.
Last week we talked to you. You weren't really impressed with the leadership on offense. How have you seen them make strides in this past week in that area?
I've seen them take that to heart. I felt like Mo Porter has done a really nice job sort of stepping up, and a lot of guys, each in their own way. But I think Mo Porter's sort of a verbal leader of the team. It's hard sometimes on offense nowadays when no one's in a huddle anymore. The old days of getting in the huddle and looking everybody in the eyes gone, So, but I think Mo's done a really nice job, and that's really, as I was talking about, I say, who is that guy for us when it's one thing when you're playing someone you're better than or everything's going your way. You don't really need it that day, right? But when everything's going wrong and guys are hurt and you're losing, or you lose a game, you have to come back the next week. Who are those guys? And I've always prided myself on my teams. Hey, we might lose one, but we're not losing 2 in a row. And that to me is a good team doesn't lose 2 in a row. And so that's leadership, and that's what we're just trying to cultivate. Whether it's a guest speaker or me putting them through something really hard, some adversity, that's where we're at. So I think I do see you guys stepping up on offense. I'm pleased. You caught me after a really good practice today. I'm in a very good mood right now. And they're trying to do everything we ask. It's just taking it to the next level, and that's always what we're trying to do, just take everything to the next level.
When you start workouts in August, it seems like you have a long time until that first game, and then all of a sudden you look up and there's maybe a week or two. Do you start to feel a little bit of that crunch time, or if you've been in the business long enough, that's not even on the table?
Well, I think for me right now, it's because it's the first year, I'm almost it feels like a race against the clock. I want, there's so many things we have to get in, so many things that we have to get covered. But I just enjoy the team. So every day's been kind of a fun, pleasant day. We've done some fun things. We went to the Heart of Texas Speedway up north of Waco on Friday night. Had the time of our lives. Kids had a great time. We've had some fun together as well. So it's been a really long camp, but it's been a good camp. And so I'm just kind of trying to take it day by day, and because I just know there's so much to get in. And you know what? After the first game, we'll play average football to good football the first game, and try to get better and better and better and better and better, so that we hit game 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that we're hopefully a pretty good football team.
How much do you know about Liberty, and how much can you actually prepare for them for week 1?
Well, when I was the offensive coordinator at Temple, I used to go against Coach Gill all the time when he was the head coach at Buffalo, so I had some experience against him. And we studied every opponent. I was in there this morning watching Liberty special teams. And so we'll, at any first game, they've probably made some changes over the summer. That they've done some different things, and that's really why I think Phil Snow's such a good defensive coordinator. He doesn't necessarily prepare for what they do. He prepares for what they might do, and so that's why we have so much detail in what we do on defense, so we can adjust. So I think that first game, you're usually hoping you can adjust to whatever they throw at you, and hoping that maybe you have some wrinkles that they have to adjust to as well.
Coach McGuire said no to a lot of people. How big was that to get him on staff? I know you had, the other high school guys, but to get him on staff.
Well, I think hiring Joey was good in 2 regards. Number one, coming from, Philadelphia and not knowing anything about Texas. Obviously, that was another, between he and Sean and David, that was another person that could open doors. And I think, when a person of Joey's caliber, not just how many wins he has, but the type of person he is. I haven't met a coach that doesn't like him. And so he's so well respected that when he came here, I think people said, oh, wow, okay, there must be something there. But I just think for me, he's become a great friend. He's become a great mentor. At the end of the day, when you're a head coach, you're me. We have head coach questions. Who do you talk to? So to have, guys like he and David and Sean who've been head coaches, who've been through different things, and he just has an unbelievably infectious personality. People gravitate towards him, and he brings a lot to the table. So I think it was personally huge, and just for me, I think it was huge for our players, huge for our team. And we're down at the THSCA, and there's 10,000 coaches, and I think every coach knows Joey, and so that goes a long, long way.
You had Graham Brown as a guy that helped buffer you with some players that perhaps you had personality conflicts or whatever. Who's the coach that when you're on a rampage or angry about practice or whatever that you brought from Temple that maybe calms you down, that's your buffer?
Coop. Coop and I, Evan Cooper, a recruiting guy, he and I watch practice together. He'll go up my office to me and watch practice, and he always brings a different perspective. He challenges me. He's in my face about why are we doing this, why are we doing that, and that's really what I believe in. I believe in dissenting opinions. I believe in, that's not like a yes man thing, and there's a lot of guys like that. Snow, when Snow walks in my office and says, hey, Rhule, I'm like, oh, here we go, and he wants to tell me, hey, we're doing something wrong. Coach DeLeon will do that. Sean Patton, when he's not on the Tonight Show or whatever he does, he believes in his truth to power. So I think we have a very unsensitive staff. We have a very blunt staff. But I'd say if there's one person that really helps me see everything, it's Evan. He does a great job of helping, because I get sometimes lost in things. I'm always bringing it back to little details that I miss. And I would not be nearly as successful as we have been, and hopefully we will be, if it wasn't for Coop.